amount of big insults at him are going to resolve the problem. If the court sends him away for 15 years, 30 years, whatever, the problem is going to remain. GBV. Let's not lose sight. Let's keep focus. That's the issue. So varsity partnerships, it's partnerships oriented towards that bigger issue. And it's got layers. It's got layers. And people buy into it in different, it gets reproduced in different ways all the time. All the time. Yabona, on the social media is worse. It reproduces these things. Those kind of jokes that people kind of spread about very easily, very casually, that is GBV being reproduced. That is it. It's that joke that people throw about this, about men, this about women. That's the first part, though. That's the first part of the problem. The second part is where we are. Where we are. As I said, the problem is not just inside, it's also outside. Let's face it, for as long as we have a Quigney, for as long as in East London and the Southern Node, for as long as we have a Sunnyside in Pretoria, for as long as we have a Hillbrow in Johannesburg, and I can go on and on and on, we're going to have repeats of these things. We're going to have repeats of these things. And Ngogo and Saigui authorities, Nentondon, Sonke, it's our role. Let's confront that problem. Let's name it, man. Those are the things that we're dealing with. These families, they send their children here. There's nothing they can do to protect their children. There's nothing we can do. Let's deal with that problem outside. No amount of insult against this or that individual. These are not individual issues. They are social issues and social structures. That's the issue. For as long as we don't grasp that, the time for Kwandelemva is up now. And the time, like one speaker said here, for finger pointing is out. The thing now is, let's sit down. We are setting the ball rolling in a positive way. The Deputy Vice Chancellor for Institutional Support, Dr. Van Heerden, is or will be writing a letter to Buffalo City to meet and talk. And talk in a constructive, how do we move forward? How do we move forward? In East London, we've got about 7,000 students here, this campus. 7,000 students. And these things, ziyenzeka. As I move to conclude, Program Director, I just want to underline there for this question of these partnerships for change. For change. Let's change society in a real way, in a meaningful way. This thing caught us, it blindsided us in a way. We had embarked on a program to focus attention on Women's Month. We had done that. But also even that is part of a bigger project. We're saying we're renewing this university, 2020, 2030. That's what we're doing. We're doing all sorts of things. We're trying to energize. We're trying to reclaim the legacy of this 105-year institution. That's what we're doing. And so just then, this thing happens. This thing happens. It sets us back in that sense. Because EGBV, or rather the fight against GBV, is part of that renewal. So yes, it's tragic for us. It's sad. It's something that we don't like. Before I talk about my final point, there is, and I need to say this because it's out in the media, as if this gruesome murder was not sufficient. We heard about this on Thursday. 2 days later, on Saturday, at 11:30, another young person died. Whether he was pushed, whether he jumped, but the fact of the matter is that the person fell off the 12th floor of a residence that we lease here in town and died. It's a complex matter. It found us already kind of at a very advanced stage of preparing for this. So, that's another thing. Again, we need to ask deep questions there. The Dean of Students of the university is engaged in processes of engaging with that family and thinking of ways of remembering that other young life. It's a different process, and we're very much on top of it. There's a delegation that's going out after this, led by the Dean of Students, to continue, because we're already in touch, to continue engagements, because the funeral might happen sooner than that of Nosicelo. Many people have spoken. Advocate Mini, your comments and the activities of alumni of the university coming to the party are noted and are most welcome. And I think many others, there are many other initiatives. And I will not spell them out here, except to say one of the initiatives is that the Chancellor of the university, Advocate Dumisa Nsebeza, called me to arrange a delegation by a team of high-powered advocates who are part of a group called Pabasa. They are visiting the university next week to engage with us, but most importantly, to have a much closer session or set of sessions with the law faculty, Dr. Luisi, and with law students. Once again, to talk to them during this time. And you'll remember that Advocate Nsebeza is the Chancellor of the university as well. As I conclude, then, we have decided to memorialize Nosicelo in many ways and let 1,000 flowers bloom. We're not regulating, controlling that. Let people do it. Let them do it with dignity and sensitivity. What we had done as part of Women's Month, we had decided to honor and recognize eminent women Fortarians on a mural in Alice. This was something that was happening anyway. And that process was happening, and then when this happened, we then said, with these eminent women that we're honoring, graduates from 2016 to now, we chose 3. We will then add a 4th panel to that mural with the face of Nosicelo. I think it's going to be this picture here. It is this picture here. It will be unveiled tomorrow. It's done already. It's done fully and only by our fine arts students, senior students and postgrad students. I was at the site yesterday. It is so touching. It's one of those, if we knew if everything was up to us, we could have done it so that it happens here and now. But that's a different story. So we will do that, and the various other initiatives we're thinking about. I'm not going to talk about the support to the family. That's something private. It's not something for memorial services. But the university has been working with the family, with the family. But then, as I begin to make my appreciation and words of thanks, first of all, let me start with the South African Police Services. I don't know if they're in the room here. The South African Police Services, they're really, and Brigadier Ngojane is, no, I don't know if he's here. Really a word of appreciation of the kind of cooperation that we need, especially around this, about the logistics, about informing us, about updating us, and about linking us up with others. So thank you very much to that. But also then, and the various people, I don't know where to start, so this is in no particular sequence. Our Dean of Students, Mr. Lufuna Shigudu, who started on the 1st of July in the job and was thrust straight to the forefront of this. and has been working with multiple parties, with the SRC this side, with the family this side, with the SAPS the other side, and so on. He really is I'm not even sure he's in the room because he's doing all the things and so on. But the Dean of Students has staff there, and I just need to acknowledge them all, and I will not name them individually, but all of them have come to the party in a big way. Whether it's a residence office, whether it's the counseling unit, and all of that. All the kind of things that we kind of put in place when the tragedy befell us. And they've happened from that Department of Student Affairs. Once again, thank you to all the staff there. And of course, there are other people to thank in the university. The department, the communications department and advancement, who are also responsible for organizing this event, including the technical people who make sure that this thing is live streaming. Thank you very much to them. And one other person, all the management people have been involved, but Dr. Van Heerden has been kind of in the forefront as well, working and supporting the dean. And thank you very much once again. Dr. Albisi, when I heard the thing, I picked up the phone and I don't know what she was doing. I said, drop. I normally don't talk like that to people. But I said, whatever it is that you're doing, drop it. Get into your car and get yourself to Quigley now. And I give you 15 minutes. And I think she was there in 13 minutes. Thank you very much, Dr. Albisi. There are many other people that we would like to thank. We would like to thank the clergy. Reverend Chingwa, always. It's not the first time. We always this with the rest of the clergy. And once again, we're very appreciative. There are many other people who have sent in messages and who have sent in WhatsApps, who have sent in many others. The messages that are being read here are just the tip of the iceberg, the WhatsApps that we're going to collate and compile. There's tons of them. There are many of them. So once again, we'd like to thank everyone and most importantly, to thank the family for the patience, for the strength and the resilience that they've shown in the time that they've been here. We said last night, we had a private moment where we spoke about this. I cannot even begin to imagine how they feel right now. But just to say, enkosi kakhulu, umzi waseFort Hare, unani ngeli xesha. Nditshilo ke pha kubo ndathi, enye into ebalulekileyo ze bazi ngokuba uNosicelo akusengowabo bodwa. She belongs to the country now. She belongs to the world. And I said, people will do all sorts of things. People will use it for pictures. Status pictures. Status pictures. Yes, she'll be on many. Her face will be there. Her face will be on our mural. Her face will be on TV. She, in death, tragic, gruesome as it is, she is now the star in a different way because she's the person who's now saying to us, do something. When the statement esingapha kwamandla ethu sisonke apha. So ngalo mazwi ndizama ubulela nabantu abazawuthetha kwiprogram bonke nje ngobuninzi babo. Enkosi kakhulu, siyabulela.
Thank you very much, Professor Buhlungu, for the words of comfort. He emphasized that this problem needs to be resolved as a society in oneness. As our motto at Fort Hare, we say together in excellence. It means that all of us, we need to take part to fight this. I'm now going to call upon the Deputy Chairperson of the Investor of Fort Hare Council, Dr. Spokas Koyana, to address us. Over to you, ma'am.
What I must learn, Prof, is that when you say I won't talk, I won't say anything, I must allow for a good 20 minutes. I took off my mask thinking that Prof won't talk, and then I had to sit there with no mask for 20 minutes. On behalf of Council, I extend my sincerest greetings to the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Mr. Manamela, to all the present senior government officials of our province, to the Reverend Sipokazi Matini, the Vice Chancellor of the University, Prof. Buhlungu, senior executives of the university, and to all our esteemed guests, staff, and students who have come to pay their last respects to the late Ms. Mtebeni. The Council of the University is shocked and deeply saddened by this gruesome murder of Nosicelo. Council, together with the whole university family, mourns the death of Nosicelo, and we express our heartfelt condolences to the Mtebeni family. May they find comfort and healing through our prayers and support. Ngaloo mazwi ke bakwaMtebeni ndithi nilale ngenxeba. Council strongly condemns all acts of violence against women and assures students and staff that we will work with all stakeholders to ensure the implementation of the university's gender equality policies, to increase campus safety, and to make sure that justice is carried out. Council is very encouraged that the university management has already started collaborating with the South African Police Services and the Buffalo City Municipality to force them to commit to tackling the urban decay and overall concerns regarding safety in East London. I will not revisit the annual statistics on how many women are murdered by men in South Africa, or how our country ranks amongst those with the highest number of men who murder women. GBV is a human rights violation. This crime has a long history from the whole world, from ancient times. However, modern societies have the means, the technologies, and the capabilities to end this crime. So everything must be done to fight from all fronts and end it in our lifetime. So I'd like to take this moment instead to talk about practical things we can do to help implement some solutions. Last year, the President declared this our second pandemic. We know this because this violence against women is pervasive. It affects women of every class, age, sexuality, race, ability, religion, or other background. All of us know that the main driver of GBV is gender inequality, which operates on many levels, from social and cultural norms to economic and structural injustices. This means that we all have to roll our sleeves and be practical in how we move forward to eradicate GBV. Let me frame my suggestions by making a direct address to President Ramaphosa. I was fortunate to have dinner with him at a fundraising event for the Ramaphosa Foundation in 2017. When I asked him how exactly he was going to end the murder of women, he looked me in the eye and promised that when he became president, he would make sure that each and every government department develops a program against gender-based violence. So we are therefore challenging him and his ministers to treat this pandemic with the rigor and urgency it deserves. We applaud the government for its proactiveness, its responsiveness, and energy in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. We need that same kind of commitment, responsiveness, and capability that the government has demonstrated against COVID-19 replicated in this war against GBV. The Minister of Health, his deputy and support entities in the health cluster are on TV every Friday, giving us detailed weekly progress reports on the government's war against COVID. So, if indeed the President accepts that the harming, raping, and killing of people because of the agenda is our second pandemic, then we definitely need to hear such detailed weekly reports on TV from the government's GBV cluster, telling us what each department has done, the provincial breakdown, where the sexual offenses courts are located, and how much personnel they have, how many perpetrators have been arrested, how many have been convicted, how many victims have received shelter and counseling, and so on. In the same way that the government has developed an app to notify us if we're in close proximity to someone who is COVID positive, similarly, the government must maximize the use of the government CHEP app and other technologies to victims who must report cases, hotspots, and to track the goings-on in their communities. Mr. President, South Africa must adopt a strategy of zero tolerance against GBV. Having said that, it is the duty of each and every one of us as South Africans to help solve the problems. It is not the government that murders men and women because of their gender. It is people like you and me who exploit both our cultures and the weaknesses in the government's delivery of protection and other services to destroy those we consider weaker than us. Each citizen is thus obliged to be purposeful in helping our government and civil organizations that are committed to ending GBV. However, the reality is we often feel overwhelmed. We feel powerless in the face of these atrocities. What can we do, we ask ourselves. For starters, the family structures in our homes are a good place to teach our youth about gender equality. This is where we must teach our sons how to treat their intimate partners. Secondly, we can speak out and report cases as much as possible. Thirdly, we can put our money where our heart is by giving and donating money and skills to NGOs which focus on fighting GBV. These organizations help orientate and mentor young men. They provide women shelter from abuse and give them skills they can use to participate in the economy more actively. And so we ought to support them. Every rand counts if they are to grow and impact change more effectively and more efficiently. And this last suggestion is directed solely at men. It is premised on the fact that the economic inclusion of women is critical to their independence and self-reliance, and thus necessary to decrease their vulnerability to violence. Therefore, if you are a man and you are a leader in your family, you are a leader in your community or congregation, if you are a teacher or a principal in a school, if you are a soccer or other sport coach, if you are the village chief, the CEO of the company, the director of the organization, if you are a manager or assistant incumbent in any setting, what are you as a man doing to engage those under your care about how to end GBV? How are you upskilling women? How are you supporting women-owned businesses? What bursaries are you providing? What opportunities are you making available for women to better themselves and become economically independent? What are you doing? South Africa, it's time to stop talking and start doing something tangible to save women's lives. What are you doing? I'm challenging you. Do not let Nosicelo die in vain. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Spokazi. Now that the Deputy Chairperson of Council have said it, Andy Tukile and it nompati uyenza a photo of thanks in the middle of the program. After saying I'm not going to talk. I'm now going to call upon the Deputy Mayor of Buffalo City Metropolitan Municipality, Councillor Helen Nelmay, to come and address us. Welcome, ma'am.
Program Director, let me greet the mother and father of Nosicelo, Mtebeni, the entire Mtebeni family, relatives and friends, Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, MEC of Sport, Recreation, Art and Culture, our Mayor of Matatiele, the Vice Chancellor and leadership from the University of Fort Hare, leadership of government and the Alliance, religious leaders present, non-governmental organizations present, students from the University of Fort Hare, and members of the community, ladies and gentlemen. We are gathered here today under very difficult circumstances for our metro, our province, and our nation. We are meeting here as a result of an extremely ununderstandable situation. About a week ago, a young Nosicelo was murdered by her boyfriend, a person that she was supposedly close to and in a romantic relationship with. No woman in this country knows that the person who comes to them seeking a relationship is the person that will end their life in such a horrific manner. For sure, the friends and classmates of Nosicelo never thought that her life would end in such a brutal manner and that being in a relationship would result in such a sad ending of a purposeful life and in the hands of a man. I'm sure many would agree that the killing of Nosicelo is a sour moment for not only the family, but for the entire nation in the month we are celebrating of Women's Month. We are told that Nosicelo was such an inspiration, coming from Matatiele to realize her vision to becoming an attorney. This shows she was focused and had a vision and worked diligently to get to her final year. The act committed by her murderer is unimaginable, difficult to describe, and difficult to understand. This is a shameful, gruesome act, and I have no words to describe it. The environment in our city and country is that of sadness and mourning due to this act of barbarity by men who are ideally supposed to ensure their safety. It is high time that we realize that we are facing a deadlier global pandemic, the pandemic of femicide perpetrated by men who believe that they have ownership of the woman's body. Violence against women is not about women's behavior, but about how men commodify women. In the memory of Nosicelo, let us find ways of better working together to fight the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. We should create solid partnerships as government, women's rights organizations, universities, religious organizations, and law enforcement agencies. We have already met with the University of Fort Hare earlier this week in an attempt to find ways of collaboration in fighting the prevalence of gender-based violence in our city and also fighting crime and the proliferation of drugs. Our municipality is open to suggestions and to collaborative acts that will help reclaim our communities from thugs and perverts. This is a fight we cannot afford to lose. This year, the year of Charlotte Maxeke, realizing women's rights. I believe as leaders, it is time for transformation. As government leaders and civil society, we must address issues of gender oppression, patriarchy, sexism, racism, and structural oppression directly, if we want to create a conducive environment that enables women to take control of their lives, as well as ensuring their safety and protection. On behalf of our city, we want to send our condolences to the family of Nosicelo and relatives. Mr. and Mrs. Mtebeni, we feel your pain, and we want to assure you and your daughter you will always be in our thoughts and prayers. We will do everything in our power to ensure that women do not live in fear, as is the case today. Enough is enough. I thank you.
Thank you very much, our Deputy Mayor. I'm just going to shift the program. I'm going to ask the Deputy Minister for Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Ms. Buti Manamela, to come and address us. Welcome, Minister.
Thank you, Program Director. Let me extend our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Nosicelo, especially her father, Kholisile, and her mother, Ntombizandile. On behalf of our ministry, the minister, and also on behalf of our government, we really want to send these heartfelt condolences to you. And we also want to say to you that this is also our loss, and I think many of the speakers have reflected on how we've been robbed of a future star of this nation. Now and then, the national anger is aroused when attention is brought to the gruesome violence and killing and rape targeted at women. The program director made a remark about how in the streets of social media, the answer is, well, the question is usually asked, what did she do to deserve this? And when this national anger is aroused, we all gather in aghast and collectively join in mourning and condemnation of the perpetrators of such violent act, or rather of the victims of such violent acts. And yet we conveniently forget that collectively as a society, especially we as men, are culpable to this atrocious crime. The list of women, especially students who have lost their lives to the barbarism of men, goes on. We remember Zolile Khumalo of Mangosuthu University was brutally murdered by her boyfriend in May 2018. We also remember Palisa Madiba of the University of Johannesburg, Jesse Hess of CPUT, Precious Ramabulana of Capricorn TVET colleges. And yet the question was asked even then, what is it that they've done to deserve this? And the only common factor between all of this is that they are women. And that those who are killed because of their gender or sexual orientation or sexual preference are precisely killed because they have a vagina. And some of those who are killed because they are gay are killed because they behave like those who have a vagina. And some of those who are killed because of corrective rape, because they are women or lesbian, are killed precisely because they sleep with people who have a vagina. In many cultures, as going through most of this, that families and tribes mourn because women gave birth to a girl, because the preference is that we should have a boy. And these are some of the cultures that have been built into our system that reinforces patriarchy, that reinforces male domination, that reinforces the fact that the male or the man remains superior than all other genders. And that anybody else who have a different genital is therefore less of a human being. And this is why we are where we are today. And today, as a nation, we're grappling with this blood-curdling detail of the murder of yet another young woman. And while we're still processing the news of the death of many women, and I must say that yes, collectively we mourn because some say it happened during National Women's Month. But the question that should go deeper into our conscience is, are we only mourning collectively this death because it happens on National Women's Month, because of the gruesomeness of the nature of the death, and yet we keep quiet when some of these things are happening behind closed doors, when we as neighbors, as street mates, as fellow students, as fellow workers, as we go into Shabins and everywhere else in social spaces, some of these acts happens on a daily basis. And yet we keep quiet and only choose to speak out because this was gruesome. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have killed my girlfriend because she cheated on me. I wouldn't have spent the night with her dead body. I wouldn't have gone the following day to go and do some of the things that we've had as based on the police account. That we want to dissociate ourselves from those acts precisely because we believe that we're more human and more men, and that our exploitation and abuse and neglect and avoiding the fact that women are killed, and that we as a society collectively, and particularly we as men, are contributing towards that systemic violence that is targeted against women precisely because they were born with the wrong genitals. And we believe that we're entitled to that. So the story of Nosicelo is part of the broader story of women in our country who today have to live with the reality that they can be attacked, raped, and murdered anywhere and at any time of the day. And this story and many others reminded me of the words of Sierra Waters in her book titled Debbie, when she wrote, and I quote, "Today I wore a pair of faded old jeans and a plain gray baggy shirt. I hadn't even taken a shower, and I did not put on an ounce of makeup. I grabbed a worn-out black oversized jacket to cover myself with, even though it is warm outside. I've been conscious, or I've made a conscious decision lately to look like less of what I felt a male would want to see. I want to disappear, close quote. These are loud words of women shouted in silence. I want to disappear. We rob them of their agency, of their freedom, of their will to live, because we've become part of a gang whose last resort is that of satisfying the urge for violence and to target women. This fear of being attacked, of being raped, is part of the daily reality of women in South Africa, and we as men do not know what it means to exist in the body of a woman in South Africa, and in particular, the body of a black woman. And so, like Sierra Waters, many women feel that they want to disappear, and that's the only way within which they can survive, and they will not be killed, they will not be chopped up and be left on the corner street of some suburb in East London or anywhere else in the country. Like many other stories of violence against women by men, the story of Nosicelo forces us to ask ourselves serious questions about the type of society we are, where we make women feel that they should shrink themselves to the point of disappearance just so that they do not die, just so that they are not raped, just so that they are not killed. But most importantly, it forces us as men to ask ourselves even deeper and harder questions. Why is it that we have become the rapists and murderers of women in our society? For those who remain alive, remain targets for their survival, they just want to disappear. And once they are killed, we ask the question, what did they do to deserve it? At the heart of these questions are other more fundamental questions. Are we saying it is okay for young girls and women in South Africa to live in constant fear? Are we saying that it is fine for us to just wait for moments like this to express our collective outrage and thereafter go on with our lives? She lived in a community. She lived in a block of flats. There should have been neighbors. There should have been someone who had something that was odd. Did we just keep quiet and say it is a private matter? Do we just let it go and say that it is none of our business? Did we just say that it is across the wall and therefore we should not interfere? And we need to be asking ourselves this deeper question. Yes, the community, upon learning of all of this, informed the police, which is what we need to see happening in order for government to be able to do its part to end this atrocious murder and killing of women. But importantly, collaboration between communities and the police is going to be very, very crucial. As institutions of higher learning, we're part of the broader society. And that which happens out there is, or that which happens in our institution is but a reflection of what happens out there. And violence is going to be the order of the day if we do not deal with it everywhere else outside of our institutions of learning. And that students or young people in general mimic those things that they see out there. That young men and their attitude and their behavior is reinforced firstly by what they see at home, what they hear amongst their friends, and sometimes, in fact, in most instances, what gets reinforced by cultures and traditions, some of them we really need to take a look at. And I think that this is probably that wake-up call for us to ask ourselves these questions. Are some of the things which we continue to do, which place young men and men in general at this level in society of superiority, precisely because of the culture of patriarchy? Do some of those cultures, are they relevant? Should we not be asking ourselves whether those cultural practices should continue as they are? I mean, the most basic of those is the exchange of dowry and whatever its origin in our cultures is. To a certain extent, it has now meant that some men believe that precisely because they've paid for lobola for this woman, therefore they are entitled to do anything and everything with this woman, including, if needs be, and if they believe that they are justified, to take their lives. Yes, we've done a lot more as government, and I've had you, Deputy Chair of Council. We've done more as government in order to ensure that we zoom in on the question of gender-based violence, including introducing a national a national strategic plan, investing resources, establishing regional courts which are specifically targeted at sexual offenses. We've reviewed legislation in this regard to ensure that harsher sentences are directed to those who commit sexual offenses. But it is not enough, or it is not only about setting up these institutions. It is about challenging the behavior which has become accepted. It is about ensuring that we collectively as a society systematically deal with the problem of patriarchy, for instance, that we systematically deal with the whole issue of gender-based violence, and that we begin to deconscientize, particularly men in our society, and deal with all of these issues around entitlement and all of that, which are as a result, or which as a result leads to the killing of women in our society. In a conclusion, I know Profs asked me if I can speak for 10 minutes. Yes, I can, even lesser. But in conclusion, Prof, we really want to applaud what the university has done. Firstly, in giving the necessary support to the family. And secondly, the kind of responses to the public that we've given. We understand that you've been under tremendous pressure as a university, particularly because of some of the misinformation that has gone out in terms of the role of the institution and the circumstances around the murdering of Nosicelo. We really want to applaud you and your team for what you've done. And we also really want to applaud the community who collaborated with the police. We want to applaud everyone who's played a role, particularly also including the provincial government, for the role that they've played in helping us to respond to this particular incident. Our attitude, over and above the policies and programs that we have put in place, our attitude has to be zero tolerance towards gender-based violence. We have to ensure that no student is killed in our campuses because their biggest crime is that they have a vagina. Our attitude must be that of zero tolerance towards gender-based violence in our society in general. We cannot have any more mother and father mourning because their daughter died at the hands of a patriarch, of a murderer, and to the point wherein we all join in this national collective anger and collective mourning. We have to turn this anger, we have to turn this mourning into action and say enough is enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for those words of comfort. We'll just play a music item whilst we wait the address from the MEC for Sports and Education, Arts and Culture, Ms. Feseka Komonyo. Can we have the music item, please? Thank you.
Bulise kuqala ndicela undivumele mphathi nkqubo ndibulise bazali baka Nosicelo. Inkosi kakhulu. Cela undivumele mphathi nkqubo ndibulise kuqala bazali baka Nosicelo. Mama Chana wakwaDonsa. Nonkongilele. Notata uMlambo nazo zonke izizalwane ezika Nosicelo ezikhoyo apha phakathi kwethu. Ndibulise Deputy Minister osanda ukuhamba of Higher Education, Science and Innovation. Ndibulise osodolophu abakhoyo, usekela sodolophu waseBuffalo City kwakunye nosodolophu waseMatatiele. Ndibulise Deputy Chairperson we-Council yase-Kwano College, University of Fort Hare, kwakunye no-Vice Chancellor ne-Management yonke yase-University of Fort Hare, abafundi ne-convocation, abafundi ngokhokhelwa yi-SRC. Ndibulisa bonke abantu abasibukeleyo kumakhasi zonxibelelwano, ndibulise nesifundisi. Ngemini ezinjena siye sibhideke siyiloze ngenxa yokudandatheka. Ndithetha ke emva ko-Deputy Minister nobethetha egameni likarhulumente, kodwa akuvumi ukuba ndithule. Kuqala ndivumele Program Director egameni lenkulu baphathiswa eliphondo Oscar Mabuyane norhulumente wonke weliphondo kwakunye nabantu beliphondo laseMpuma Kapa uba ndithi ngxe kusapho lakwaMtebeni, ngxe kwi-community yakwaNo College, ndithi ngxe community yaseMatatiele apho Nosicelo akhulele khona. Mhlawumbi bangaba bendingelilo inina elizithatha njengosisomdala kaNosicelo nomfazi ozela abantwana bangamantombazana, bendingazuthetha apha namhlanje. Kuba uDeputy Minister Bhuti selemthethela urhulumente, kodwa akuvumi ndithi cwaka kuba ngaphambi kwam bekuthetha indoda. Sidandathekile, sinemisindo. Namhlanje sizile uzocuntsula inhlungu kwifamily yakwaMtebeni. Kuba inhlungu enivayo, inhlungu eviwa sisizwe sonke. Ngicela nindixolela ndizokwazi ukhumsha. Traditionally umuntu xa ezothetha apha ngaphambili ulungisa intetho Vice Chancellor ayibhale phansi. Kodwa kuqhekeke ukusa namhlanje ndingakwazi uwabhala amagama ndidibanise ukuba ndizawufike ndithini apha. Ayikuko into yobana andikwazi uthetha, kodwa kungenxa yentlungu esizibona siphantsi kwayo. Sinomsindo and ndiyacinga into yobana izithethe ezingaphambi kwam zichazile into yobana umsindo esinawo akufanelanga siwujolise omnye komnye. Ela yilo xesha lokuba sikhombane sixekane. Kodwa umsindo wethu sonke simele ukuwujolisa kwizenzo ezithe gqolo ukusidandathekisa. zenze zithe gqolo ukusehlela imihla nezolo ezinya kuthethwa ngazo kuba zenziwa ngamadoda azibiza ngokuba angotata ebantwaneni bawo. Namhlanje sithe khunubembe sililizwe sonke kuba silahlekelwe inzwakazi ebiseze ngoluso ezweni. Inzwakazi ebenikamva eliqaqambileyo. Andikwazi uyicinga madonsa inhlungu ophantsi kwayo. Kodwa ndiyafuna ukuthi kuwe akukho nto ubunoyenza ukusindisa uNosicelo ukuba angasweleki. Ndiyafuna ukutsho kuwe Jiyana ukuba njengotata ongumzali ayikho into ongayenzanga ukukhulisa uNosicelo. Kwaye akukho apho nifeyile khona njengabazali. Naye ubengenokwazi ukuzisindisa. Izithethe ezithethe ngaphambi kwam sele zichazile ukuba inkulu lento sijongene nayo. Eyona nto indenza umsindo kakhulu kukuba imihla nezolo amadoda ajonge ecaleni. Amadoda ayaqhubekeka ahlale nezidlwengu nababulali angathethi into. The least some of these men say is not in my name. Ngelinye ixesha sikhomba kurhulumente sithi urhulumente ufanele uba enze ngcono ukukhusela amanina. Akekho urhulumente onganepolisa elingangena endlini umzi nomzi likhusela umuntu ongumama. Abantu abangomama nabangabantwana abangamantombazana ubomi babo buthathwa ngabantu abafanele uba bayabakhusela. Buthathwa ngabantu abathi bayabathanda. Imibuzo mininzi esizibuza yona, senzeni? Singabafazi simachile. Senze hashtags sathandaza. Sanxiba izinto apha uDeputy Minister athi siyazogquma ngazo ukuze singabonwa. Kodwa loo nto ayisincedisi. For the longest time we are expected as women to defend ourselves. Some are even calling for us to learn i-defense tactics. Masiyofunda ikarati, masenze le. Amadoda adenzeni wona. Kutheni le nto iluxanduva lwethu singomama ukuba ngabana masizikhusele senze ntoni? Kutheni singenalungelo lokuphila ngokukhululekileyo? uNosicelo khangaye phandle estratweni ukuze adibane nombulali wakhe. Ubesendlwini. Inyanga nenyanga simaphambi kwamadoda siwacenga siwabongoza singamanina ukuba siyekeni kwanele. Izolo besisithi kwanele ngoUyinene Mrhwetyana ngoYergels nabanye. Uminister wezamapolisa 4 days ago released statistics, crime stats in South Africa ziphezulu kakhulu. About 5,765 yabantu bulewe just in 3 months, and majority of those are women. These are not statistics. Gamagama abantu. Ngabantu esiphila nabo. Ezi zinto Vice Chancellor zenzeka ebumelwaneni bethu, zenzeka in our families. Kutheni madoda niqhubekeka nihlala namadoda enze ezi zinto? Kude kube nini? Masibambaneni. Eli ayilodabi labantu abangomama kuphela. Eli ayilodabi le-University of Fort Hare. Eli ayilodabi karhulumente kuphela. Singeza phanga phambili sithi singurhulumente senza lena. Singeza phanga phambili sithi siyi-University of Fort Hare, this is what we are doing. But have we really done enough? As a society, have we really done enough? Sikhulisa isizwe esinjani esingenasazela, isizwe esingenalo novelwano. Ndimapha phambi kwenu namhlanje ndithetha nani madoda eli loMzantsi Afrika. Sinicenga okokugqibela. Siyaphela. Usihlalo we-convocation apha ngaphambili mhlawumbi sekulixesha lokuba nokuba siyabuliswa ngokusibaleke. sisizwe sinjani apho abantwana bangazokwazi ukuba xa bebizwa ngabantu abangamadoda basondele ecaleni kwabo. Kwanele. Xa ndizawuhlala phantsi ndiyabawela ukushiya amazwi akwiSityhilelo chapter 21 verse 4, and it reads as follows: and he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will no longer be death, there will no longer be sorrow and anguish or crying or pain, for the former order of things has passed away. Wangumphefumulo kaNosicelo ngalala ngoxolo yangefamily yakwaMtebeni. Ingathi ngeli xesha libuhlungu kangaka isondele enxebeni kuThixo kwenzela into yobana yomelele, uThixo ayibonise indlela yokubheka phambili. Singurhulumente wephondo laseMpuma Kapa sawusoloko sikufutshane nani. Inxeba lenu linxeba lethu. Lala ngoxolo Nosicelo, lala ngoxolo sisi, siyaxolisa. Inkosi.
Thank you very much, Sis Fezeka, for the words of encouragement. I can imagine in every woman's mind, the question is, who is next? I'm now going to call upon Reverend Spokas Martini to give us the sermon. You may give us a music item whilst the Reverend is coming to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Ndivumeleni bethuna ndithi ngolwimi lwenkobe nqanga neentsiba zawo. Ndiyabulisa ndingacalulanga bathi ngelwimi lasemzini all protocol observed. Udadewethu osuka kule ndawo uwenze walula umsebenzi wami kakhulu. Family yasekhaya badla ngokuthi abantu abadala xa bethetha inyongo iyaselwa nobiyarharha. Athi umuntu oliciko lokuthetha futhi nobungayigalela ixamba leswekile inyongo ayisoze be sweet. Sime apha namhlanje, I am asking myself as I am sitting down uba out of all the ministers, Mfundisi uNtshingwa, why me? Why a female clergy? Ngoba ingqondo yam indithathe ndibeke ezihlangwini zikaNosicelo zoba nam I am not safe. Akukho guarantee yoba xa ndiphuma apha Mfundisi ndibuyela eKing Williamstown I will make my way back home. Ngoba isono kukuba ngumuntu obhinqileyo. Kodwa uthi umbhali family yasekhaya sithini na ke kwezi zinto? UbuThixo ungakuthi kubani ongasichasayo? Mhlambi ngela xesha lo mfana bethatha ubomi bukaNosicelo becimba ugqibile. Kanti uThixo uqala ipage entsha yobomi benu nobobomi bomntwana wenu. Sifuna ukuthi kuni family yasekhaya ngxe xolweni. Siyaxolisa kakhulu. Uba ibikhona indlela ngesithe noko ubomi bukaNosicelo mabube kanti busaphila. I am only going to read few verses from the Gospel of John, chapter 6, for the benefit of those abangazundiva xa ndithethayo. I will read in English. Verse 63. It is the spirit that gives life. The flesh is useless. The words that I have spoken to you are spirit and life. But among you, there are some who do not believe. Verse 67. So Jesus asked the 12, do you also wish to go away? Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom can we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and know that you are the Holy One of God. Therefore, may I speak in the name of God, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Uyabuza uYesu apha family yasekhaya kubafundi bakhe. Emveni koba kwivesi ezingaphambili ebethe uYesu, ndisisonka sobomi. Therefore, lowo uyidlayo inyama yam, alisele igazi lam, uyawuba nobomi obungunaphakade. But because abantu basoloko Vice Chancellor bekhangela into negative out of something positive. Bayabuza kuYesu into oba lo muntu uthetha kanjani uba if we eat his flesh and drink his blood, then we will have eternal life. Atu Yesu, because we have understand abantu into oba bameleze babe confused futhi bangaqondi, kodwa ingxaki kaYesu abantu ebesoloko ehamba nabo uyababona into oba nabo banentandabuzo ezinhlizweni zabo. Therefore ubuyela kubafundi bakhe uyababuza into oba nani nifuna ukundishiyana. Uthi uPetrosi, Nkosi singasuka siyephi? Singasuka siye kubani kweli lizwe likhohlakele kangaka? Ngoba onke amazwi okuphila afumaneka kuwe. Ngalamini ibingena i-call family yasekhaya isithi uNosicelo is no more. Kuye kwaphela ubuxoki, kwaphela inyani, nama in the middle anayazi noba manibheke ngaphi. Kodwa namhlanje sizowubuyisa umqondo, sizowuthi nakule meko nikuyo amazwi okuphila afumaneka kuYesu waseNazaretha. Oyimbangi nomgqibelelisi wokholo lwethu. Futhi akakhathaliseki noba njengebebuza uba nani nifuna undishiyana, banganishiya abantu. Bese kutshiwo kule ndawo kwathiwa mhlawumbi emveni kwale memorial service, emveni kwesingcwabo sikaNosicelo, we will forget about izinto ezininzi ngoba ubomi buyaqhubeka. Kodwa sizowuthi kuni family yasekhaya, uThixo onibizileyo akasoze anilahle futhi akasoze anishiye, soze aniyekele. Kumzi waseFort Hare University uthi uJohn Silkin xa ebhala in one of his poetry, athi I have seen stones I have seen brick. I have seen a house. But this house was made up of neither brick nor stone, but a house of flesh and blood. A blood with flesh of stone and bricks for blood. Ngela xesha lamfana ebesenza all this act etyakatya amathambo omzimba kaNosicelo mhlambe enhlizweni yakhe ucinga lento ebeyisebenzisa ubhubha uqhawula ilitye. Kodwa the fact of the matter elilitye belaphula is made of flesh and blood. Le athu Yesu namhlanje uba nithi niyidla inyama yam nilisele igazi lam niyawufumana ubomi obungunaphakade. Athatha omnye umbhali xa ebhala family yasekhaya nabantu bonke abalapha, it is okay not to be okay. Futhi it is okay uba ungayiva nezi zinto zithethwayo ngoba ingqondo ithatha ibeka uba Thixo buphi ngela xesha umphefumulo womntwana wami ubuphuma. Ufuna ukuthi kuni family yasekhaya, God was there. The fact that nina niyazi ba namhlanje uNosicelo ubhubhile ngoba isimo amke ngaso emhlabeni sine potential yoba ebenolahlwa naphina kungabikho even a trace of her bones. Kodwa uThixo wathumela abantu njengoba besekutshiwo kule ndawo bachaza uba simbonile umuntu eyilahla isuitcase. Ubomi bomuntu bareducewa to impahla ngoba into ethwala isuitcase impahla. Nimele ke for that nimbulela uThixo ngoba ebenakho uNosicelo yokulahlwa elwandle. Nicimba umntana usesesikolweni kanti akasekho kweli limiweyo. Thethwa nge-statistics here. Kukho abazali nabantu kumakhaya who are still moaning and crying bekhangela abantu babo bengade babafumana. Kodwa uThixo wanenzela inceba. Wathi ngeke ndithi seniviswe kabuhlungu kangaka ndiphinde ndivumele intoba ithambo lomntwana wenu ningaliboni apho libekwe khona. Axalisa ngenye imini uYesu efika kulo Lazaro esithi nimbekephi. Uthi xa efika kuye Lazaro phuma engcwabeni ngoba kuYesu kukhona amazwi okuphila. Family yasekhaya le imeko umuntu angathi xa eyijongile athi kukhona isidumbu kwelikhaya siyawuphuma ngenxa yenhliziyo ebuhlungu emveni kwalomngcwabo, kodwa we declare egameni likaYesu waseNazarethe you will live. Thixo kayideli inhliziyo etyumkileyo. Futhi uThixo akayideli inhliziyo egqobhokileyo. Umhla nezolo siyathandaza sisithi Nkosi senzele inceba. Senzele inceba singabantu ababhinqileyo ezandleni zabantu abekufanele uba bayasiprotecta kodwa basisengcwabeni imihla namalanga. Kodwa sizothi kuni family yasekhaya ubuYesu esisonka sobomi, meaning akasoza nishiye akasoza niyekele idreams uNosicelo ebenazo ngekhaya lakhe. uThixo will make sure uba noba uyazifulfilla kanjani kodwa they will be fulfilled. I-difference is that azizufulfillwa nguNosicelo esisiqu sasenyameni. asube kuthi uThixo akavumeli isimo senzeke kuwe ungumuntu futhi akakunikeza umthwalo ongaphezulu kwamandla akho kuthethwa lemeko nikuyo family yasekhaya lo umthwalo ubonakala emehlweni abantu ungaphezulu kwenu kodwa uThixo wazila intoba you will be able to carry lo msebenzi nalomthwalo obhlungu kangakanana so that umama kaNosicelo ngenye imini kumzalo oshiwe ngumntwana wakhe athi I am a living testimony akashiywa umuntu ngithixo noma abantu banganishiya kodwa uThixo yena sozangishiye noba uNosicelo ngemka emehlweni enu kodwa uThixo yena oyimbangi nomgqibelelisi wokholo nobomi bomuntu akasoze anishiye uyawuhlala nani unaphakade uthi uPetros kule ndawo singasuka siye kubani inkosi ngoba nguwe wedwa. That is the Holy One of God. Abantu ke kwimeko ezinjena bayazingcwalisa Vice Chancellor and abanye bafuna ubonakala bona be-innocent abanye bafuna ubonakala bona bephambili bengathi they are supporting lo msebenzi wenziwayo kodwa umuntu nomuntu kwabanye abantu abayawuthi beze kuni family yasekhaya funeka nigadu Yesu nabantu abangozungula ichele boba nithi nikwesisimo baphinde baningcwabise kwakhona. Futhi we condemn kwimeko ezinjena nophina umuntu who don't allow the family to mourn and grieve in their own way ngoba ngoku sidilishana nemeko yobuntu bukaNosicelo bugcwele social media yonke and whoever did that never thought of ifamily ifa kanjani kodwa sifuna ukuthi kuni there's God in heaven who his promises are yes and amen. Who ubomi bukaNosicelo ebesenza finally yakhe ezawuphangelela phucula imeko yekhaya lakhe bangathi abantu xa bebukele napha elalini apho nisuka khona bejongile kusithiwa besicinga lo mntwana kuyawuba khona igalelo alenzayo ekhayeni lakhe noba kunjalo family yasekhaya ukhona uThixo futhi uYesu uthi ngenye imini xa nizawuhlala phansi kwintombazane equleni ekwakubonakala kuyo uba yona ithembe amanzi oyisemkhulu ngoba zikhona izinto ezithenjwayo kweli lizwe bakhona abantu abathenjiweyo kweli lizwe kodwa uthi uYesu xa efika athi ndipha amanzi ndisele ithi le ntombazana ngoba i-tradition ne-culture ekhuliselwe kuyo kukuba akukho budlelwane phakathi kwamaYuda kunye nabo uthi uYesu ububusazi ububa ningubani lo uthi kuwe ndipha amanzi ndisele ubunge ungacela kuye amanzi akukuphila ngoba uyabuya uze kweliqula wawuncane kanti mina amanzi andinokunikeza wona ngamanzi anokuphila athomnye umuntu xa ecula athophuzayo kulamanzi akasayi koma naphakade siyavuma phela emqaleni siyavuma kukho nobuciko bokuthetha kodwa ayikho enye into esizokuyi-introducer apha sizokuyi-introducer uYesu sisonke sobomi xa nibala iminyaka nisithi ngoku njengoba silala ngamanzi eswekile ubuNosicelo besaphila umntwana wethu ungephangela ukhona uThixo ozizinto zonke ebomini bomuntu athi lo mbhali singasuka siyephi xa sinosuka kumka simke kuwe ngoba onke amazwi okuphila afumaneka kuwe sizawuthethwa ke intetho ngentetho kodwa amazwi okuphila afumaneka kwinkosi uYesu sekuthe ekugqibeleni sesilapha kulomsebenzi sicinga ukuthi kuphelile adathu malibongwe gcwabe akukaphela uThixo ngekatsho bona abantu can think ubomi bukaNosicelo has been shattered and shortened as we have seen kodwa kanti uThixo uthi xa iphelile ipage ephepheni the next thing you need to do kukuba uvule ipage entsha so that uThixo azowuqala nawe ubomi obutsha to friends sikaNosicelo. Ezi zifemeli zingumceli mngeni lo wabantu esibavumayo xa besithembisa izulu nomhlaba. Satshila umntwana kaThixo kule ndawo esithi ngokufuneka sibaleke ngoba umuntu uthe sithi ndiyakuthanda kodwa enhlizweni abe a potential killer yakho uthe sithi umuntu I will protect you kodwa ngomso is the one who sells you apha kwihlabathi liphela. Sizawuthi kunike namhlanje walk tall and no, this is not the end. Ewe kona kubhlungu ewe kona amabhinqa ayemka ngendlela engekho mnandi kweliphakathi kodwa isinikeza umkhombandlela woba sithi noba kunjena sizawuqhubeka siyavuma kunzima kubhlungu kodwa sizawuqhubeka siyavuma indlela isibuyisele emva kodwa sizawuqhubeka uYesu engumncedi iyahambeka le ndlela noba inzima. Thatha omnye umbhali xebhala nobody said the road will be easy. Kakho umuntu othe kuzabalula endleleni. It could be anyone. Bazali bami obenoba kwimeko kaNosicelo, ibingaba ngumntana se-next door, ibingaba ngumntwana wami, ibingaba ngummelwane, kodwa uThixo wayazi family yasekhaya uba kusimele kukuphumela ezimbandezelweni ezininzi ukungena bukumkanini bukaThixo. Nivalakele ntetha ngamazwi kaSt Augustine xa ebhala ebona imeko yokufa athi death is a mystery, and though an inevitable fact, who is the man that shall not see death, that shall deliver his soul from the underworld. Ithi ke le nto uNosicelo ebengesosimakade kweli lizwe naye bemela zafe noba ke sisithi akamela ngemke ngendlela mke ngayo kodwa akukho umuntu ebeyazile oba sizawube sihleli apha ngoba ukufa yindaba engaqondakaliyo nendaba efihlakeleyo as uSt Augustine esitsho kule ndawo esithi death is a mystery kodwa ibona umbuzo lento ngoba xa ifikile kuwe, will you be able to say, even on this death, I know my Redeemer lives. I know God of yesterday and God of today and forever will stand with me eternally. Ilando kathatha omnye umbhali xebhala who does not feel sad when looking at a body which had formerly drawn its life from the soul, but is now lifeless since the soul has been taken away from this world. Kwenziwe njalo ngobomi bukaNosicelo. Uthe umntwana esakhabalaza esazama ukuphila ubomi bakhe banqanyulwa. Ngoku ke family yasekhaya kumele zenive kabuhlungu futhi kumele zenilile kodwa athi umbhali ningalili njengabantu abangenathemba. Ngoba umuntu ongenathemba uphelele ekulileni nasenhlungwini kodwa umuntu olile nethemba uyayazi into yoba ufana noJob uthi noba ulusu lwami lungadlavulwa lube nje inhliziyo ityakatshwe ngomntanami kodwa ndiyamazi umhlalelo wami uyawusukeme phezu kwethu lilo mhlaba sithembo lobabalo lobuthixo noba abantu bangasishiya noba izihlobo zingalandulela ezi sakutshiwo kwathiwa sijongene nepandemic eyi-COVID-19 kodwa this is the second pandemic ngoba kulo meko injalo abantu are still going to the grave site in numbers futhi kushiyeka kukhwamnqekile uthi uqonda uba mawusonge izandla ngoba kuphela inyembezi emehlweni kodwa kulo meko injalo azisule uThixo iminyembezi kwabo balilayo ungabi sabakho sijwili nakukhala ungabi sabakho nhlungu nasingqala ngoba izinto zokuqala zidlule futhi athatha onye umbhali impindezelwa siyo yethu vengeance is of God okuko kwethu ukuthi inkosi siza kuwe sidalule konke kwathu sifuna ukuziswa nguwe nkosi ubumnandi bobuncwane beliphakathi lento ngenye mina datha umculi pistil no that I am God pistil no that I am God be still and know that I am God. Nani ke be still. uThixo has taken care of the matter yokufaka Nosicelo. Uthi ngenye imini kumaSirayeli xa ewakhuphe iphutha sele ngasaqonda intoba besithi ebengekho namangcwabe eyiphutha uba sizowufelapha. They never understood ukuthi uThixo uhamba nabo endleleni njengangoku ngeke sinigxeke xa ningam-understandi uba uThixo ukhona kunye nani kule journey athumela uMoses athi misani nilubona usindiso nakuyenzela nini uThixo kuba lamayiphutha niwabonayo namhlanje anisayi kuphinda niwabone babengaqondi intoba okunene lamayiphutha azawuphelelaphi ngoba into abayibonayo ngumkhosi wamayiphutha nenqwelo zokulwa nezamahashe ebomini babo kodwa they never knew ukuthi uThixo unecebo. uThixo unecebo ke ngento nganye yithi xa uyifunda iBhayibhile ujonge uthi le Red Sea inkosi yilena athi sizibona sikuyo emacaleni kubonakala ngathi kuvalekile ngaphambili nangasemva kubonakala ngathi utshaba lugqibile ngathi kodwa uThixo athi ndiyayivula indlela ukuze nikwazi ukucanda. Nangoku uThixo univulela indlela family yasekhaya ukuze nikwazi ukuphumela ngaphaya ukuze nikwazi ukubona ngaphaya ukuze nithi besikade singaboni kodwa now we see uthi besikade singeva ngendlebe kodwa ngoku siyeva. uThixo ke sengangahamba nani uThixo ke senganganithwala uThixo ke senga kuba bonke obubomi athi umhlabeleli phaya ekhaya kuzo zonke inguqunguqu zobubomi eyami inhliziyo yozukisa uThixo. Mzukisa uThixo selimeko engavumi umzukisa uThixo sele kukubi kunjena athatha omnye umculi noba kunjena senze njani kungabikho bani uphendulayo kodwa vele ungqangele emihla avele uYesu waseNazarethe uthi ndime emnyango ndinqonqoza sapho lakwaNosicelo ndilinde nina nivule ukuze le nhlungu noba ubuhlungu bayo bubonakala ngathi buyani overcome kodwa mina njengoThixo xa seningenile ndiyawungena ndidle kunye nani ukuze ubhubhane onjena kwelakhaya ungazi uphinde wenzeke nanini na. Bathi abantu xa bebukele kwakhe kwanje phina andilokhaya lokuqala abazali bam futhi nangoku zininzi imeko ezibalulwayo kodwa we speak life ekhayeni lenu sisithi akunawuze kwelakhaya kulamahlubi kuphinde kube khona ukufa okufana nokwegameni likaThixo uyise unyana nomoya oyingcwele. Amen.
Thank you very much to Reverend Spokas Martini. Even the word of God in Genesis, when Cain killed Abel, the blood of Abel cried to God. The same way the blood of Abel cried to God, the blood of Nosicelo must also cry for justice to prevail. I'm now going to call a family representative, Miss Nomvula Beauty Gushe, to give us some words. Whilst the family member is coming, may I ask to have a music item? Thank you.
I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm going home. Diekaya, Diekaya, Diekaya. Angisayikufa, angisayikufa, ndivumeleni ndibulise komama notata, ndibulise ebantwaneni bethu ngelihle igama lenkosi yam uYesu Kristu nomsindisi wam, amen. We were in the dark valley of death, but now we are no longer in the dark valley of death, because God is with us. He will never leave nor forsake us. We fear no harm. God's rod and staff gave us courage. Bomama notata, uThixo uyazibonakalisa ngendlela akazibonakalisa ngayo. Kwaye uYehova uThixo akaveli avele esisiqu. Uzibonakalisa ezimpilweni zethu ngezenzo kuze kubonakala ukuthi uThixo uyaphila, ngokuthi angene ebantwini bakhe asebenzise bona ukuze lowo usengxakini abone ukuthi uYehova uThixo ukho, uYehova uThixo uyaphila. We were afraid and intimidated, but now we are no longer afraid and we are no longer intimidated. God is with us. God strengthened us. God helped us. God gave us support with his righteous hand. Kube njalo ke nakubantu esiphila nabo. Babonisile ukuthi Jehova uThixo uyaphila kubo. Basisupport kangangoko benako siyifamily yakwaMtebeni. Basisupport ukusuka sifumana lo mphanga. Basisupport endleleni abantu bakaYehova uThixo sisiza eEast London sisuka eMatatiyeli. Babonakalisa uba uThixo uyaphila kubo kwaye uThixo uzibonakalisa kuthi ngabo. So God is with us. We are no longer afraid. God strengthened us. You also strengthened us. God helped us. You also helped us. God supported us with his righteous hand. You also supported us with your righteous hand. Ndisa umbulelo ongazenzisiyo kwiUniversity yaseFort Hare. Ndisa umbulelo nabantu bakwaMtebeni ngongazenzisiyo kumapolisa ase East London. Ndisa umbulelo ongazenzisiyo sisa umbulelo ongazenzisiyo kumasipala wase East London. Sibulela ngokungazenzisiyo kwiSouth Africa yonke iphela. Kuye kwabonakala ukuthi ngoNosicelo asilimalanga sisodwa, silimele sibaninzi. Siyabulela bantakwethu, siswela yona imilomo eliwaka engesibulela ngendlela enisenzele ngayo, nenze ngaphaya kwendlela ebesiyicinga thina. Sibulela iUniversity ngehospitality esinike yona. Siyabonga bazalwane. uYehova uThixo anenze kahle. Kwaye siyacela semngaba kwaMlambo okokuba okukukhathala onokubonisileyo kuthi zeningapheleli kuphela kuthi. Nibonakalise nakubanye abantu abaxhwalekileyo. Siyabulela. 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 May God bless you. Thank you.
Enkosi mama. There were friends of Nosicelo who could not come, who are outside because of COVID restrictions. They have something special, a gift that they wanted to give to the family. Are they outside? Because I had asked them to wait immediately after the family member has spoken. Okay, I'll just proceed with the program. Once they are in, they will come and give the gift. I'm now going to call upon Usis Ndibi, Mayepa. Okay, they are here. You can come. Mama, you can come here to just receive the gift.
This is our naughtiness together with her when sees law students. Sibhlungu, siyakhala. Into yethu ithi besingafanelanga basinxiba black sizawumona ukuhamba kaNosi. bekufanele basinxiba mnyama as candidate attorneys sifumane imisebenzi. Kodwa nevertheless isilapha. We promise uNosi nawe mama ukuthi we will carry the baton forward. We won't let go. Sizawuqhubekeka as law students. Amaphupha wakhe sizawuqinisekisa ukuthi asilahli itawuli. Sizawuqinisekisa. We love you.
Thank you very much to the law students. I'm now going to call upon Mrs. Ndibi to give additional message of condolence.
We have more messages that we'd like to read. We received a message from the South African Union of Students, a short message to the family, the university management, the Department of Higher Education and all guests present. Please receive our greetings. As the union, we author this note with heavy hearts and deep pain. We are in pain because the youth of this country has lost a soldier in the fight for transformation. From the South African chapter of the International Association of Women Judges, Justice Mandisa Maya, President of the SA chapter of the International Association of Women Judges and the African Regional Director of the IAWJ, says that the protection of women and girls is one of their key objectives. The tragic news of Nosicelo and the other young women found burnt in the bushes of Polokwane has galvanized them into action, and they will be in touch with the institution in due course. Archbishop Thabo Makgoba, Anglican Church. Archbishop Makgoba wrote, "I send you from my chapel in tears, our prayers and the prayers of our church, as you console so many, and especially the women students at the University of Fort Hare. We join you in expressing our shock and condemnation of the gruesome murder of Nosicelo. May you and the whole university community, especially female students and staff, be comforted." Stellenbosch University, Mr. George Steyn, the chairperson of the Stellenbosch University Council, wrote, "It is with shock and sadness that we at the University of Stellenbosch learned of the tragic passing of the young Nosicelo Mtebeni. We want to express our sincerest condolences to the immediate family as well as the University of Fort Hare on this sad loss. Although words are inadequate at a time like this, please know that you are in our thoughts." Rhodes University SRC, they stated the following: "We would like to convey our sincerest condolences to the family of Nosicelo. We strongly condemn all forms of gender-based violence against women. It is mortifying that we still continue to see incidences of femicide, especially during Women's Month. We further stand in solidarity with the University of Fort Hare and all affected students. We urge the law enforcement agencies to be steadfast and ensure that justice for Nosicelo is served." And finally, from Professor Nasila Selasini Rembe, former holder of the OR Tambo Chair in Human Rights. He wrote, "The pain endured by the family, relatives, fellow students, and the community is beyond description. Our thoughts and prayers are foremost with the family and of the deceased during this difficult time, and all the fraternity of students that have shared social and academic life over the years. As we scratch our heads to see how we can avert such callous acts of murders, rape, and violence in future, the University of Fort Hare must mobilize all its constituent parts and marshal all tools to its arsenal. The Charter of Ethical Values and Principles is one invaluable instrument that the university has. I urge you all to spearhead awareness raising that will enable the noble principles and values in the Charter to permeate every Fort Harean and become part of our daily lives. When that happens, we shall be at relative peace. In conclusion, the university has received many, many messages, informal WhatsApp, SMS, and telephone calls. These are deeply appreciated and have been shared with the family. And we thank you all for your solidarity in sharing the grief of the university and the family and commemorating the life of Nosicelo Mtebeni. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Sis Ndibi. I'm now going to call upon the SRC Transformation and Gender Officer, Ms. Pokas Mbalo, for words of support from University of Fort Hare students.
Thank you to the program director. Let me take this opportunity and greet our VC, the MEC of the institution, staff, and a special greetings to the Mtebeni family. Please allow me to say all protocol observed. Under normal circumstances, given a platform like this, I would be expected to say many things. But for today, I will not. I would like to pass my sincere condolences to the Mtebeni family, to the students of Fort Hare, to the law students, to the whole community of Fort Hare, and to the entire nation, because the death of Nosicelo traumatized us all. Before President Ramaphosa declared GBV to be a pandemic, Nosicelo has already identified GBV to be a pandemic in 2019. She wrote on her status on Facebook on the 2nd of September 2019. I will quote her exact words. If you have a vagina and you live in South Africa, make sure you are armed. Have a knife or a pepper spray all the time, because you might be the next victim of rape. It's so sad that she only anticipated rape, but did not think that she could be killed to a point of being dismembered. Dear Nosicelo, may your spirit be with us in this war that we're about to begin. As activists against gender-based violence, we will not stop, we will fight, and your spirit will carry us. We are saying no to GBV and femicide. We are calling to the government and the justice system to create a safe space for us as women and as queer community. Nosicelo's death came when me and my colleague, the Transformation and Gender of Alice Campus, we were planning to have a program, and we were planning to name it An Open Letter to Men. This platform was going to be given to our young South African women to tell men that we are not Imbokodo. The women of our generation, we are not Imbokodo. We are human, we have breath, we have blood, we feel pain. So stop treating us like Imbokodo, because we feel pain. This whole thing doesn't make sense. The entire week I have been trying to think about it, to try to process it, but I'm defeated. I had words that I wanted to say, but at this point, I feel weak. But Nosicelo did not die. She multiplied. We will carry on and make sure that her spirit lives longer. Long live to the spirit of Nosicelo. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our Gender and Transformation Officer. For every woman who feel abused, you may feel that you are trapped, maybe you are afraid, maybe you are sad, you are angry, and you are shocked. Some are even confused or ashamed. You may even feel that it's your fault, but it's not. No one has a right to hurt you. Take the first step to safety and talk to someone about what's happening to you. I'm now going to call upon our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Renuka Vithau, to give us a vote of thanks. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you for sharing today with us. As I reflect on the words that have been said today and in these last few days, Nosicelo would have brought us together in a year's time for her graduation. And I remember that with great sadness. But she has brought us together on this sad day for her memorial service. I want to first of all thank her family for allowing us to share this service with the university community and all of South Africa at this very difficult and sad time. We express our sincere gratitude to the large number of messages of support and prayers that we have received to her family and to the university. We thank the clergy for their prayers and wise words. We thank the faculty of law, the dean, the staff, and the students. We thank the Department of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, the Minister, and especially the Deputy Minister for being able to join us for this morning and for his words of support. We thank the Eastern Cape province, the local government and provincial government, and the leadership that were present, the Buffalo City Deputy Mayor, the MEC for Sport and Recreation and Culture. We thank the Vice Chancellor, members of the executive, and all the staff and students of the university for their support and for all the words of comfort and prayers that they have provided. In particular, the SRC and the members of the SRC that have addressed us today, the Convocation and the President of Convocation and the initiatives that they are planning. We welcome those. And then the GBV task team that has been leading us in action on this very important issue. And finally, I would like to thank the Program Director for the leadership in taking us through the program this morning. And of course, a function like this always requires the effort of a large number of staff in the university, in particular the institutional advancement and the many departments, including the department that is housed in this building. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for taking the time, for spending this morning with us. And we appreciate not only the words, but also the commitment to work together to rid us of the scourge of gender-based violence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prophet Thao. I'm now going to ask Professor Lulama to give us blessings as we end our ceremony. Thank you very much for being a good audience.
Sithini na kwezi zinto ukuba uThixo ungakuthi ngubani na ongasichasayo amabandla onke ohlangeneyo ekhokhelwa iSouth African Council of Churches kwakhona athi kusapho ngxe akuhlanga lungehliyo xolo lukaThixo lugqitha konke ukuqonda malugcine inhliziyo nengqondo zenu nimazi uThixo nonyana wakhe uYesu Kristu Nkosi yethu, and the blessing of God Almighty, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit be with you and remain with you always.